And the way that this plug was fitted was actually surprisingly similar to how a normal door would be mounted into that same fuselage. The reason for this was that it provided the easiest and most secure way of ensuring that the plug would be able to support all of the pressure that it would be subjected to every time that the aircraft would become pressurized. But of course there were a few key differences. When the door plug was installed, it was fitted with two lower hinge fittings that would, if this would have been a normal door, allow it to be lifted slightly upwards by the door handle and then fall outwards and downwards in order to get out of the way and activate the emergency exit slide. To facilitate this upward movement of the door in case of an evacuation, two assist springs were also fitted, and curiously, these springs were also fitted on the plug, even though they would really serve no real purpose there. On the top of the opening, two rollers were fitted onto the door frame, and those fitted into two upper fitting guides on the door plug. Once the door plug was properly in its place, these lower hinge fittings and upper guide fittings were then completely blocked by the help of 4 bolts, complete with castle nuts and cotter pins. In the upper guides, these bolts were then inserted to make any movement of the roller completely impossible, and in the lower, the bolts actually went through the hinge guides itself, locking them into position and making the springs below them completely harmless. But it wasn't these hinges and guides who actually kept the door from blowing out when the differential pressure inside the aircraft would start to rise. Instead, once the door was properly in the correct place, 12 stop fittings, 6 on each side of the door, would align with 12 corresponding stop pads in the door frame, making any outward movement completely impossible. So that's how the door plug worked, and in this case it was completely correctly installed and verified by Spirit AeroSystems engineers before fuselage 8789 left the factory for its trip up towards the final assembly line at Boeing's Renton factory.